As Director of the Department of Corrections, we do have a number of people signed up this afternoon. The first witness we'll call is Stephen Parry of the City of Providence. Right over here next to the clerk, Colonel. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Judiciary. My name is Stephen Parry. I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety for the City of Providence. I think I know all of you, but for one new senator, and I apologize for not introducing myself, I will do so in due time. I've been in law enforcement 34 years. My first career was with the state police, nearly 27 years coming up through the ranks of the state police, and now with the City of Providence, the Commissioner of Public Safety overseeing both police and fire. I'm here and I'm honored to be here on behalf of Director Wall. A.T. Wall is a person not only in this state but in this country that has a reputation, credibility in what he does. He's sacrificed his life in public service. He has been such a key component of criminal justice and law enforcement as well. For instance, years ago, the City of Providence began meeting with all our stakeholders, and A.T. committed to the City of Providence. He knew that the people leaving his institution were going back mostly to the City of Providence, and that it was important that his staff and he led his commitment to meeting with the City of Providence, each and every week. And that still goes on. It's been going on for nearly 10 years. His probationary folks, his parole folks, we collaborate in so many ways that I can't say enough about this man in his administrative skills and what a pleasure it's been working with him. Probably have known him for nearly 2 decades, and there isn't anyone that I've worked with that I respect and have the admiration for in a difficult job in running a jail and the ACI. He cares about the people that are in there. He cares about them turning their life around. And so not only is he running the prison, but he's also involved in so many other programs that help people break that cycle of crime and come out of the institution rehabilitated and a productive society, a member of our society. So I fully support consideration to his nomination to continue in that position. It would be a benefit for not only the City of Providence but the entire law enforcement community in the state of Rhode Island.
Are there any questions for Commissioner? Thank you. Senator Jabbour.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to recognize and welcome my commissioner in the City of Providence's commissioner, who not only has done a great job, but is very prudent for our new mayor to retain commissioner, and I look forward to working with you, Commissioner, in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you. The next witness we'll call is Chie. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Madam President, thank you for having me to be an honored guest to speak on behalf of Director A.T. Wall. I'm here on behalf of the Center for Southeast Asian. I am the current executive director, the only organization serving the needs comprehensively, serving the needs of Southeast Asian in our states. On behalf of our board of directors, our community of the Southeast Asian, as you know, we came here about 30-some-odd years ago. This year of 2015 will be our 40th year anniversary of the fall of Vietnam War. And so just a little bit of the history. So I am walking the footstep of all my clients that came here. I landed here November 16, 1980. So I am the casualty of war. I am the only child left out of 5 children. I am the second eldest, born in the 60s. I lost my parents. I had my mom and my aunt. We are the 3 sole woman survivor out of 93 family members. So with that being said, my community has suffered so much trauma and so much atrocity. We came here to rebuild our lives and rebuild the American dreams. So with that being said, we are honored to work with a fine gentleman who have a reputation to collaborate and partner and embrace the culture and diversity and transform the equality of what we say and how we do. When we say inclusivity, diversity, discrimination, we don't just say it as a punchline. We embrace it. I thank you, and I'm honored to be in your presence. So on that serious note, I'll share you the funny story. A few years ago, I have the privilege and honor to escort this fine young man who is, as you can see in his stature, very tall. We went to a temple together, and because he called me up one day and said, I want to be at the temple and pray. And I said, you really want to be at the temple? So now I'm a private person, so I don't share a lot with my community. So a lot of people don't know my husband, what he looked like, my children, what they look like, because I'm very private. I walk in and never share this with him. So all the scuttering around that I walk in, now a female, walk in with this fine gentleman, and all our elders said to me, that is her husband. Look at how big he is. Be careful. So that's one. But the other said, look at how fat she is. Be careful. So that. And then this fine man decided that he was going to go up front, closer to the monk and to the Buddha statue, and start sitting down. And when we sat down, there's no chair. You sat on the floor. So this man and his statue decided to sit down and trying to fold his feet the way Buddha sat. And it was funny because around me, all the elders looked at me and said, your husband is very awkward. Teach him. So I have never translated that. So that is the first and formally that I have admiration for you, sir, and my community as well have that admiration for you to really come down and sit among all of us. I thank you, and I would wholeheartedly recognize and for you to reconsider renominating him for his post. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Senator Archibald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Chie, you are a remarkable woman, and it's an honor to be in your presence. You've overcome great adversity, and where you are today and the sense of humor that you have, the sense of balance, the peace that's in your eyes, and the way you convey that to all of us, and your words, the humor that's in them, the levity, and they come from your heart. Thanks for doing what you're doing. It's a dangerous world today. You're at the forefront of the Southeast Asian community as their representative. I met with them four or 5 years ago in a different capacity in another campaign. I was very impressed with them, and you've got a lot on your table, but you do it with grace and balance. So it's an honor to be in your presence. I'm very impressed. Thank you for coming and caring and sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Senator Nesselbush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to welcome my good friend Shinavi to the Judiciary Committee. I've known Shinavi for many years and just recently was down to the Southeast Asian Development Center and got a nice tour, met with Shinavi and her staff. And, you know, Shinavi, your story is really, it's both hair-raising and so inspirational. So I thank you for coming out today and sharing not only your story, but your support of the fine director that we have before us today. So please keep up your great work on behalf of your community. You really are a star, both in your community and in the greater Rhode Island community. Thanks for all you do, Shinavi.
Senator Metz.
Yes, and I just want to ditto what everyone said. And I just want to thank you for all you do. You're an asset to the community, and it's just an honor for me to know. And all the work that you do is really appreciated. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments for this witness? Thank you. The next witness we have is Jody Rich.
That's a tough act to follow.
Good afternoon and welcome, Doctor.
I'm glad that I have a nice, comfortable chair and I don't have to twist my legs up. Thank you, Honorable Chair people. I really here for a couple of reasons, but we have in this nomination a world-class expert in criminal justice, in running a Department of Corrections. And I kind of wanted to reflect some of my experience over the last over 2 decades that I've worked at the Department of Corrections as a consultant. I'm an infectious disease physician based at the Miriam Hospital, also professor of medicine and epidemiology at Brown. And I have focused on the health and the health care of the incarcerated population. And Director Wall has, since I've known him for these 2 decades, the insight and the foresight and the understanding that the health care and the health and the public health of this population is public safety. Right now, we are incarcerating in this country more people than any other country in the world by far, and we've done this over the last 30 or 40 years. We have just ramped up and up. It has come down a little bit in the last few years, and we're still way out of line, both internationally and historically. This is unprecedented. This is it's really a national shame what we've done. Now, that is not a reflection on the director. In fact, the Department of Corrections, our medical director equipped, a former medical director equipped, do you want me to cut medical costs? No problem. I'll cut medical costs at the Department of Corrections tomorrow. Just stop sending me sick patients. The Department of Corrections does the best they can with what the resources they're given and the patients and inmates they're sent. 20 years ago when I got to Rhode Island, we were in the midst of an epidemic of injection drug use related HIV. Many of you remember that some of the steps that were taken in this room to combat that were extremely successful. And much of the war against this epidemic of injection drug use related HIV happened at the Department of Corrections. The director supported our HIV care program there. We got people into care, into treatment. When they got out, we got them into drug treatment, into mental health treatment, and the census has dropped dramatically. And in fact, injection drug use related HIV has all but dried up in this entire state, in large part of the way that was happened. Now, in hindsight, recently in the last few years, we've discovered that if we put people on treatment for HIV, that their risk of transmitting HIV to other people is very low. We didn't know that at the time. We suspected it, but we knew we were just saving people's lives. But by saving people's lives, by putting them on treatment, we're actually also preventing them from spreading it to others. So that's the Department of Corrections, and specifically A.T. Wall and his leadership gets credit for a large part of that public health success. We're in the midst of another epidemic right now. We're in the midst of an epidemic of overdose deaths, and the Department of Corrections is standing up again to fight this. Two-thirds of the 212 people that died this past year of overdose deaths had spent time in the Department of Corrections. The risk of overdose death in the 2 weeks after release from incarceration is 129 times greater than the general population. What happens is people get addicted to opiates. We're in the midst of an epidemic of opiate addiction, and the very tip of the iceberg is these overdose deaths. These, if you get addicted to opiates, your brain is telling your body that you need these opiates to survive. And so people who have opiate, and this is the primitive brain, it's not up here where you're thinking. Your body just takes control and makes you do some of the most god-awful things. And many of those things are illegal, and thus people with addiction often end up incarcerated. I think it's a disease, and I think we need to treat it as a disease. But in the meantime, we can prevent these overdose deaths. So what happens is when people start using opiates regularly, they develop a tolerance. They need more and more and more to get the same dose, and they can tolerate more. And that happens over days to weeks. When they stop using, they lose their tolerance. And if they go out again and resume at the same level that they were using, that's when they overdose and die. That's why those first weeks after incarceration. The director has supported a program of providing the antidote, naloxone, to people coming out of corrections. This has not been done in any state correctional facility that I know of in the country. So he's really a leader and supporting this. And for that reason alone, he should be confirmed. So thank you very much.
Are there any questions or comments for this witness? Thank you, Doctor. Before we call the nominee, is there anyone else present who would like to speak on this nomination? At this time, we'll call A.T. Wall. Good afternoon and welcome, Director.
Thank you, Chairman McCaffrey. It's an honor to be here.
At this point, we want you to talk a little bit about yourself and then explain where you think you're going to take the Department of Corrections in the next 4 years.
Appreciate that opportunity. As you know, I'm A.T. Wall. I am the Director of the Department of Corrections. Got my start at the line level of our profession almost 39 years ago now. It has been my life's work. I am honored and feel great privilege to do what we do in the corrections field, and certainly to be Director of the Department of Corrections. I'm a native of Rhode Island, born and raised, live here still, as does my family, as do my in-laws. So I have a personal stake in the public safety of the state of Rhode Island and feel as if it's afforded me an opportunity to contribute to the betterment of the state and to the common good. I have been director for about 15 years, and I must say that I suppose I should knock on wood. Anything can happen at any time, and has, but I've been able to have a pretty good run as director. The credit goes to the men and women of the Department of Corrections who have done their job with tremendous professionalism, patience, diligence, and a commitment to the people of the state. And it has allowed me to stay in this position for as long as I have. In terms of where we go, I would say that there's a certain bedrock, and it's this, that we need to be sure that we are running a safe, secure, orderly, humane, and constitutional institutions where staff behave professionally, where inmates are being properly managed, where there are opportunities afforded to take programs that will contribute to desistance from crime. And if we don't fulfill that fundamental mission, nothing good will happen at the Corrections Department. Everyone needs to feel safe. Our staff needs to feel safe. The inmates need to feel safe. The public needs to feel safe. Visitors and those who come and provide services all need to know that this is an environment where they need not fear that they are going to be hurt. And so my commitment is to continue that record, which has been the envy of a number of our colleagues. I mean, during my tenure, we've had no riots or major disturbances, something that wasn't always true. I lived through some of them at the DOC. We have had no homicides. We had one escape from a secure facility. It was through identity theft. The inmate stole another inmate's identity and managed to defeat the system. He's back in custody serving a long sentence. There were no repercussions, and we now are, courtesy of our federal delegation, equipped with iris scans so that it can't happen again. So I think the news is good, that you can feel a sense of comfort that the Department of Corrections is doing what it is that you expect us to do. In terms of the next 4 years, let's assume that it stays on that course. I really feel as if we want to claim our mission of rehabilitation and effective reentry. Because the institutions are running well, we now have the opportunity to focus on preparing inmates for life after the ACI, both through case management and programs targeted to deal with the needs that are resulting in their criminal behavior in the first place, through careful discharge planning before they get out, and through an effective combination of supervision and support for those who are back in the community on probation and parole. Our staff have stepped up. They have embraced the most recent thinking, the evidence, the practices that are associated with that evidence. They are feeling a sense of satisfaction as they see that their efforts are bearing fruit, and I hope that we can continue on that course for at least the next 4 years.
Are there any questions or comments for the Director? Senator Metz.
Yes, thank you. Director, well, you know, out of all the directors that I've known in the state, I probably feel closer to you because I feel a spiritual connection, because you certainly have the education, the qualifications, and the experience. But I first met him and his wife. Our churches, their church invited us to a bus trip to New York to look at some historical churches as it related to the African American history and some other things. And so we met kind of informally, and I enjoyed that trip. And then certainly I went to, the Senate President sent me to a conference about reentry programs, and I met him at the airport. We shared a taxi cab, so I'm with all the professionals in that area. And so he made sure that I knew what was going on, not working in the area of corrections, because everybody at the conference was experts in their own right that worked in the field. And so knowing about the reentry programs, and I learned things, he made sure I get to meet some people and listen to the conference, and it helped me, give me direction in the work up here about the reentry, the three-legged stool, a house, a job, and supportive services for those that are dealing with drug addiction. And when those three things are in place, the recidivism rate is cut. And so changing public policy, he's for recidivism, he's for the rehabilitation. Some of the bills that I've tried to get passed, I can always call of him and get his honest opinion, and he supports me most times where he can. And this will start my 14th year as a religious volunteer at Medium One. I go Sunday morning, so this starts my 14th year. I enjoyed the inmates, I enjoyed the staff. Everyone treats me well, they treat me with respect. And I really enjoyed the experience of helping people. But the place wouldn't be where it is today, and because you have the right spirit to go along with everything else. And it's just an honor to be associated with you, and I look forward to working with you so that we can reduce the recidivism and have the reentry programs that we need to save the taxpayers' money.
Are there any other questions or comments? Senator Raptakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to commend the governor for the reappointment of A.T. Wall, the director. And, Director, I think you've served under 4 governors, and with this reappointment, it could be close to serving the state close to 19 years. I think you're probably one of the longest-serving major department directors in recent Rhode Island history, and I commend you for the work that you've done for the state of Rhode Island and for the people of the state of Rhode Island. As Director, what you just told this committee is 100% accurate and very important to even those that do leave the prison system. One quick question. I know that you spoke about returning those that have been incarcerated back into the public arena. how is the numbers of the prison population? Have they been on a decline the last maybe 3 to 4 years? Because as you know, we have major pieces of legislation, the Brissett bill, which hopefully could pass this year, the life with parole bill. The percentage of those that are incarcerated for a long, long time, those with life sentences without parole and those with the life with parole, what is the percentage overall, and do you see a decline in the prison population in the coming years?
We have seen a decline in the population, and I want to give credit where credit is due. It is the result of the hard work that the General Assembly took on in 2008, the effect of which was to stabilize the population and even accomplish a significant reduction without in any way compromising public safety. In fact, recidivism rates came down. And I give great credit to the Senate President, Senator Paiva-Weed, who took a personal interest in this issue and stayed the course all the way through the discussions and other interesting sessions that occurred in between. So we are down 17% from where we were just 6 years ago. There's a slight uptick now, but not anything that is going to cause alarm.
Excellent. Director, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Are there any other questions or comments? President Paiva-Weed.
I don't know if I think I have it on now. I want to welcome you, Director, and it has been my pleasure to work with you over the last 20 years, and you really have met many of the challenges of corrections head on. And what some of the committee members may not know is that the Director is recognized throughout the country as an expert in corrections, and we are really honored that not only that he was reappointed by the governor, but that he is committed to Rhode Island and staying in Rhode Island, because I know that there are many states that would certainly love to have someone like the Director there. And we did work closely on many reforms, and I remember many of those meetings and the challenges of those meetings. We miss him dearly, but dear Chief Justice, Chief Judge DeRobio was very colorful throughout all of those meetings, and we worked our way through it, and I think we really did come up with some very good reforms. But there's new challenges, and I think it's really appropriate that Dr. Rich was your witness today, because many of them do connect with the medical care that we give prisoners. The chairman, the leader, and I had an opportunity to meet with you earlier, and perhaps you could talk a little bit about the challenges of an aging prison population, hepatitis C, which many of us know was a big flag during the budget this year, and the costs of hepatitis C, and maybe some of the work you're doing with your colleagues around the country to address those issues, and some of the challenges you see going forward, particularly with an aging prison population.
Certainly, President Paiva-Weed. When I started in the profession, the model was that of the sociopath, the criminal mind, the individual lurking in the shadows, sort of ready to pounce. And those people do exist. But what I have found over the years is that increasingly the correctional system is dealing with problems of public health. And that would include those that you've described, some substance abuse, related diseases such as HIV, hepatitis C, dementia for the aging prison population, a whole host of those kinds of problems. And hepatitis C, of course, is a particular concern right now. And increasingly, I think we find ourselves trying to, within the confines of correctional institutions, trying to tend to those health issues in a responsible way. One real challenge has been that 100% of the dollars that go to the health care of incarcerated inmates that 100% is borne by the taxpayers of the state of Rhode Island. It is not defrayed by Medicaid. There is no federal contribution. Hepatitis C is a really good case example. We had been treating hepatitis C before. The course of treatment took many months. It was expensive, and it had terrible side effects, so severe that inmates were dropping out of the program and saying, I would rather live with hepatitis C than go through this treatment. Last spring, a new drug came on the market, and it now not only sort of alleviates the symptoms, it cures the disease altogether. You're free of that illness, but it's really expensive. And given that the United States Supreme Court has made it very clear that inmates incarcerated are entitled to the same level of health care as would be true in the community. We cannot fail to provide those treatments. So the cost at this point is for treatment is about $92,000 per inmate. It overwhelms our pharmaceutical budget, could swallow it whole. Dr. Rich and others have agreed to serve on a committee to prioritize those cases. Not that we're going to deny you treatment, but we're going to focus on whose symptoms are most severe and who will be getting out of the system. And that, unfortunately, is costing a lot of money. Aging inmates, as you mentioned, is another problem for us. We are now seeing the fruits of the era when inmates were sentenced to very long terms for crimes that they may have committed when they were young men. And they are disabled now. They suffer from dementia. Prison is a tough environment for them, and it's difficult for our staff, which is accustomed to inmates understanding the rules, following the rules, having consequences if they don't follow the rules. And the idea is, therefore, you will follow the rules from here on in. But our dementia patients don't have the capacity to react that rationally. Very frustrating for our staff. We have a medical parole statute in the state. Its provisions are pretty rigid. You have to meet a high bar, certain criteria in order to be released. And so not a lot have been. Just as important, and this was a discussion that I had with you, President Paiva-Weed, and also with Leader Ruggiero, just as important, when they're released, they need to go to a place where they'll receive care. Many of them have outlived their families, or their families have disowned them. They can't function independently. And so they need skilled nursing care. For understandable reasons, families who have loved ones in those nursing homes do not want these inmates, in whatever condition they may be. They do not want these inmates sharing corridors or meals or rooms or activities with their own family members. And so it is really difficult to get people placed into nursing homes. We had talked about the fact that Connecticut the Connecticut Department of Corrections has actually acquired a nursing home that it is now using for the people that it can't house anywhere else. And with your encouragement, I'm going to be getting in touch with my counterpart to find out more about it, to see if that might be an opportunity to address the needs of these people, and if the stars are properly aligned, to subsidize that care with Medicaid dollars or Medicare funds. That's a new frontier for us, and I'm eager to find out if we can make it work.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Senator Jabbour.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam President and Majority Leader. If there is no other comments or If anyone wants to testify, it's with pleasure that I move the reappointment of Ashbel T. Wall for another term as Director of the Department of Corrections.
Senator Jabor moves the advice and consent, seconded by Senator Metz, Senator Lynch, Senator Nesselbush, Senator Raptakis, Majority Leader Ruggiero, President Paiva-Weed, Senator Lombardi, Senator G, Senator Conley, and Senator Archibald. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The advice and consent is granted. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chairman McCaffrey and members of the committee. It really is an honor to serve, and I am very grateful that you're affording me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Good night to you.
Senator Conley moves we adjourn, seconded by Senator Lynch. All in favor? Aye. Congratulations.